You're on the Butterfly Effect, and today is stage 4 of the Giro. First off, dramatic news. Geraint Thomas is out from yesterday's crash, a fractured pelvis. I had that happen in the Tour of Spain to me once. It is definitely painful. I had to ride 2K only. He did all day yesterday on a fractured pelvis. Amazing ride just to get to the finish line. He's out of this year's Giro, and directly you see the consequences as the Ineos train is nowhere near seen at the front at any point in time during this stage. That's how dramatic of effect losing someone like Geraint Thomas for Team Ineos is. They go from the stage yesterday in stage 2 where you see them at the front, especially on stage 2. Then today's stage, they're almost like Ineos is no longer in the race. A dramatic change for the team, and the bad luck continues for Team Ineos at 2020 Grand Tour so far. They're going to need to salvage something at the Tour of Spain. Now let's get back to stage 4 because it was exciting. A lot of people have talked about how Peter Sagan hasn't won much in more than a year. It's been a long time, of course, but every race that Peter Sagan and his BORA Hansgrohe team enter leaves it exciting, and there's never a dull moment, even on a stage like today where the climb midway wasn't difficult, a hard climb but not very hard. You needed a team like BORA Hansgrohe with Peter Sagan to really light this race up and keep all of us viewers at home from getting bored. They would not disappoint as they send the sprinters off the back from the halfway mark all the way to the finish line. It's an exciting race and a cat and mouse between the chase group of sprinters catching back up to the Peter Sagan-led BORA Hansgrohe field. With 1K to go, you finally see the sprinter team FDJ come to the front with Arnaud Démare to lead him out to try to go for that first stage win at this year's Giro. He would get the win, but the tactics are quite strange as you see it. They take the lead with 1K to go. About 150 meters later, they go into the left turn and they let Miles Scottson go off the front. That was a strange tactic. To me, I thought they should just lead it straight in the line. At that moment, what I'm thinking is when they slow down at the front, because now there's only 2 Française des Jeux riders controlling the front, but they slow the pace. When that happens, that pace could slow, and Arnaud Démare could get pushed way back and have that swarm effect come around him. He had a bit of a luck because the stage was a little bit wet at the finish, which causes everyone to go into that turn really slow. They still go in pretty fast, so they let Miles Scottson roll off the front. I thought 50-50 on that move, really, because as they slow with Démare, if you slow too fast, that swarm will come around and he could be in 20th or 30th spot before you know it with only 700 meters to go. It doesn't happen that way because Cofidis takes up the chase right away for Viviani, and that keeps the pace smooth. And you see with Française des Jeux, they're now sitting second and third wheel instead of what I thought might happen going to 20th or 30th. Instead, Arnaud Démare is still in a great position. He starts his sprint, but before that, you see Peter Sagan fighting with Davide Cimolai. They're bumping bars. You got to believe when it's going to be a bike throw, a blanket cover for first, second, and third at the line, that the energy Sagan is using to fight with Davide Cimolai has got to be the difference between the win and the loss on today's stage. It's a sprinter's race. That's what they do. There's nothing wrong with it. I thought it was completely aggressive, beautiful sprinting stage finish. But clearly it's going to cost Sagan a little bit of energy. When he goes, he takes the front, and then it is Arnaud Démare coming by him just with a bike throw, and of course with Davide Ballerina from the Deceuninck Quick-Step getting there also for a 3-way blanket at the finish. Arnaud Démare takes the win. Hats off. Française des Jeux' first win at this year's 2020 Giro. Arnaud Démare's second Giro stage win of his career, if I'm not mistaken. Peter Sagan, second. It's got to hurt, but he is leading the sprint competition again. So you know, just like at the 2020 Tour de France, that this Giro is going to be just exciting on the flat stages, just like it will now in the mountain stages. Now, I would also like to point out that Trek Segafredo with Vincenzo Nibali were always near the front, keeping him out of danger and in control. You see when they go over the climb midway that they want to start the descent on the front, and that's just to keep their leader, Vincenzo Nibali, in control. Trek Segafredo looks to me like they're trying to take over this Giro like we saw with Jumbo-Visma in the Tour de France. And I would also like to point out, normally if you had Jumbo-Visma at their full strength like we saw at the Tour de France, you would see them much more at the front of the field than we did today. With their race leader, Steven Kruijswijk, he looks good. He's not great with the top 4 or 5 at this year's Giro, but he has come into the Giro under-raced and probably under-trained from his accident during the Dauphiné. That will affect his form. Let's see if he can ride back into it and Jumbo-Visma start to take control of this Giro like we saw at the Tour de France. I don't see it coming because I see a great Vincenzo Nibali. Trek Segafredo clearly believe he can win this Tour de France, and that's going to be our highlights for the upcoming week or two of this Giro, is going to see a lot of Trek Segafredo on the front. Got to give it up to Joao Almeida from Deceuninck Quick-Step. He was right up there with the sprinters. He was very close on, tied for first and second, of course, with the EF Education rider, Jonathan. They sprinted for time bonuses. The Deceuninck Quick-Step rider, Almeida, takes the time bonuses, gives him a little more buffer between first and second. But what really impressed me about the young Deceuninck rider is how close he was at the finish line to the front winners of this race. He left no room for gaps to open up, protecting his pink jersey all the way to the line. I'm sure he plans on trying to keep it for tomorrow's stage. Another epic day of racing tomorrow with a massive summit, not summit finish, but a summit passing of tomorrow's stage. Stay tuned to the Giro. It's just starting to get excited, and just like this year's Tour de France, BORA Hansgrohe is here to make sure we don't have a boring stage at all through 2020 at the Giro. Hope you enjoyed the butterfly effect. I'll see you real soon.